welcome back for what's going to be, I think, maybe our last segment together, though, I don't know the future. Who knows what we do? Anybody can tell you. I just threw my pen in case you can't see that on the video, but that's...
Didn't see that coming.
Yeah, that's dramatics. But I know, as I always tell them when I make big mistakes in worship, I always tell them they have to forgive me because we're Methodists and we're all about grace. So we're all about love and forgiveness. So you can remind them of that all the time too. I'm a very convenient Methodist when it works for me. Yes,
right.
Yeah, especially when I receive the grace. That is. So now, just to remind everybody, because some of the Ashley folks know you before when you were at Ashley and Sparta together, quarter time at each, right? And then 4 years ago when I came to Ashley and Ashley and Kilbourne were yoked, Sparta was re-yoked with Chesterville, and that's where you've been the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Then, so that is interesting to me. Kind of a similar situation. We've held one of the same churches for 6 years, and then a different one for 4 in the midst of that. So what have you enjoyed about your ministry with Chesterville and Sparta?
Well, with Sparta, having started ministry there and then continuing to have my position there, and then, just now leaving, I think, one thing with Sparta specifically is really just the fact that it was my first appointment, and so in some ways, the members at Sparta have helped me to grow into, the pastor that I am now, as much as I have, tried my best to guide them as disciples in Christ. And so that's just a really great dynamic, especially because it is interesting, demographics, if you will, is the word I'm looking for, of Sparta. Most of Sparta is women. And so I end up, I think I get treated a little bit like a grandson, just a little bit there. But that just really makes the relationship with them, as a pastor, just all that much more fulfilling and, able to be there and encourage one another, I think. And then in terms of Chesterville, being in Chesterville is great because despite it being such a small town, they still have a really active community and a lot of different events, a few different events throughout the year that they're really involved in the community. And I really like being able to get out there they have this festival, this Heritage Festival every October. And I like to be able to get out there and talk to, more than just the church folk, but be able to talk to everyone in the community. And they have some really strong leaders that I've enjoyed getting to know, and I think have also helped me to grow as a pastor. And so those are just a few of the things that I've enjoyed about the past 4 years or so. I think being at those churches.
I imagine it's a little bittersweet for them seeing you move on. I mean, they know obviously that you're looking for a full-time appointment, but especially as maybe the token grandson sometimes, and now you've grown your family and included a cute little boy. So I imagine they're both happy for you and also maybe grieving a little bit.
Very sad. I think they're especially sad that Jasmine and I now have a child and now we're leaving. So.
That's no offense, Kilbourne and Ashley folks, but really, most of what I've heard is like they're going to miss Belle and Amanda. So like I get credit for producing them, right, but that is. But hey, we'll take what we can get, right? Mm-hmm. And particularly looking at the last 4 years, because I know. This is kind of a different situation because Ashley folks know you some, and Kilbourne folks don't know you much. But so, what are some ways you think you've maybe grown or changed or adapted a little bit in the last 4 years since you've been with the Ashley folks?
Well, I was still really fresh to ministry when I first arrived, or even was still leaving Ashley, and so it's really hard to say that there isn't any single area that I haven't grown in, right? It's not like I had it all figured out when I started ministry at a lot of places to figure a lot of things out. So I think I've grown in a lot of different ways. It'd be hard to name just one, and hoping to continue to grow some more, right? I think that continues to be true. So.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, and I know sometimes the expression people keep using for me is it's like drinking from a fire hose, and that's when you start ministry. It certainly feels like those first couple years.
It's a very trial by fire
Yes.
approach that the Methodists take. Absolutely.
Yes, yeah. So, I mean, I know this is kind of an awkward question because sometimes we don't like to like boast on ourselves too much. But what areas do you think where do you bring some strengths to the table? Or
Right, yeah, it's awkward, right, asking these questions. So I try to focus on things that I've heard other people compliment me on directly, and something that, especially being in Chesterville, because I came in to a situation at Chesterville where they hadn't had the best working relationship with the previous pastor. There's just a lot of hurt there. And one thing that I kept hearing coming into that church is that I have a calming presence. They kept describing it as, and even a healing presence. And so I'm a laid back person. I'm not. I try to have as much grace towards everyone as possible. And so I think that just being able to have that, remain calm even coming into that kind of difficult situation really helps to pave the way for finding that peace, right, that the scriptures talk about, which transcends all understanding. So, and applying that to ministry. So.
Well, and absolutely. Well, and I mean, I would think too. Even when a church within itself isn't having that kind of stress, but the world today is just it can be such an anxious place, and so having a peaceful presence, even when the church is healthy, or I would just imagine that really brings a lot of peace to parishioners, and that's something that's missing a lot in the world. So I think that's something really amazing. And we'd be lying if we didn't say the last year has been a particularly anxious time in the world with COVID and COVID. Has there been anything else? There has been some other things too. There have been a lot of other stressors too. But for the last 13, 14 months, it feels like, our lives have been dominated by COVID or in other anxieties. So over the last kind of 14 months, what were ways that you kind of adapted or provided extra or different care for the congregations in that time?
Well, at Sparta and Chesterville, we kind of faced a unique challenge because where a lot of churches tried to focus more on digital connection, like here we're recording this video even that we're able to share with the congregation. At both Sparta and Chesterville, I'd say half the congregation doesn't even really own computers. Let alone understand, really even accessing videos and things of that nature. And so that was already just right away a challenge we faced. And so we ended up relying a lot on some little bit more traditional forms of communication, which is telephone calls and the letters. I had been writing sermons, and rather than having a video sermon or anything of that sort, I had the entire thing written out, and I enveloped them all and then sent them to the congregation, so they were able to have some reading material that some congregation members said they even had the opportunity to read multiple times, and so they enjoyed that. And then I was focusing a lot in the phone calls throughout the time, really just trying to offer prayer to everyone, really just everyone. I didn't give people too much of a choice to be honest. Like, oh, hey, this is Pastor Ryan. I thought we could pray today. It's just as a way to continue just to try to remain connected to God and remember to trust in Him throughout all this difficulty. So.
I think that's awesome, and that is true. What a lot of people may not know is, in our kind of profession. There's all this emphasis put on in bigger churches on, the best tech and all of that, but that doesn't work for everybody. And so meeting your congregation where they were, I think that sounds really awesome. And I often think that I say really profound and amazing things in sermons, so I like the idea that I could write them down and you guys could just reflect upon my brilliance for longer. So I really feel like I've missed
multiple times.
Yeah, like you could be like, wow, we knew she was brilliant, but not this smart. So I feel like I missed out on that opportunity there.
Always future opportunity.
Yeah.
Where are you going next?
Well, I got 8 more weeks. I could just start mailing them a whole bunch of sermons now, and then they'll be really glad when you come because they'll be like, please stop the mailings. 5 times a week is too much.
Some extra reading material for you.
Oh, well, so just curious on some fast, because the truth is we all have some favorites. So, what's your favorite season within the church calendar?
Well, I'm honestly a person who doesn't always handle structure or too well, and so I actually really like the middle of the church calendar here, where it kind of goes. It's not necessarily too many scriptures or anything. You can kind of play around with the lectionary a little bit more, and there's some more freedom in what's going on in the church here. So I kind of like the summertime, right in the middle of everything.
So that, what did they call it? Common time or something?
Common, yeah. I was gonna say I don't even have it. I don't even know if there's like really like
ordinary time. Okay, just FYI for all of you with you, the person who is not clergy here remembered what it was called. So I mean, Ryan and I, we share some gifts and graces, and apparently we also share some shortcomings.
Remembering vocabulary isn't one of them, apparently.
We know Advent and Lent. We know the high points, y'all.
Exactly. Those are the exciting times.
Yeah, I mean, they may not be our favorite, but
yeah, exactly. I like the more relaxed, more laid back.
Well, that is certain, and I think you're right. There is sometimes even within Advent and Lent, the pacing, and there's just so much going on. It's sometimes hard to get deep into things. Where I think you're absolutely right. Ordinary time gives us some more. That does sound better than common time. I'll admit that. Good job, whoever made that up. So if you weren't in the pulpit, like if you weren't the person leading service, where would you sit in the sanctuary?
Oh, I tend to, because I tend to sit up front when I'm not preaching, because then it usually means that some of the congregation members are likely leading the service or anything like on Laity Sunday, and so I like to sit up right up front and just make them a little bit nervous. So,
so like you sit up there and give them the eye. Do you like pretend to take notes and make disagreeable faces?
No, but that's a good idea.
You're welcome, guys. So when that happens here, that's all me. The gift that keeps giving. That's awesome. That's interesting. I'm definitely like a backsitter. And I don't know why though. There's no good reason. I should be a front sitter.
Did you grow up Methodist?
I did grow up Methodist.
That's probably
why.
Yeah.
We sat second from the back pew. That was not the back, because that's where the sinners sat. My dad told me. Second to back wasn't all that great either.
Second to back. That's the sweet spot.
You're really far away from the pastor, but you're not on center row. So that's some theology by Bill Clark for you. Now, this isn't. Did you grow up Methodist?
I did not. I grew up in the Lutheran church, actually.
Well, that's a fun little tidbit for us.
Yeah.
And we have some Lutheran converts about. So you'll be in good company. So last thing I'm just curious, because it seems like almost everybody has some favorite hymns. One of my favorite is "Pass It On," which I sing really horribly, but I really like it when other people sing it well. But do you have favorite hymns or?
So one that has always stuck with me back from my time at the Nazarene University in Mount Vernon was their university hymn was "Be Thou My Vision." And so that one's just always kind of had a special place in my heart. But I would say in terms of something, one that I just like singing to in the car, and I feel like it just sounds great no matter what version of it you hear, is "It Is Well." And just the peace you feel listening to that. So I'd say those two hymns are my big ones: "Be Thou My Vision" and "It Is Well with My Soul." So.
Man, I can't critique those. I can't even make fun of those, and I do love making fun of things. So, but those are certainly two amazing hymns. And I'm sure you guys will at some point get to sing those with Ryan in the future. Certainly, those are, wonderful hymns, and you'll get a lot more chance to get to know Ryan in the coming months and years. But certainly, Ryan, I thank you for this time, and I just want to say again that the more we talk, the more excited I am. I think, I hope you find Kilbourne and Ashley to be as loving as I did, and as my family did, and as graceful. And certainly, I think you guys have a good path ahead of you.
Thank you, Beth. I'm definitely looking forward to being able to share more about myself and learn more about everybody here. So.
You hear that, guys? You got to share too. Now, on that note, thank you all for watching these, and we certainly look forward to seeing you guys sometime. Thanks.